I'm back.
Okay. Hi,
Hi, there you are.
Seema.
Hi, hi.
I'm
So
so
good
sorry about
morning.
that.
No, no, no worries. It happens. It's a live. All these things are okay. These are fine.
And
So,
somehow technology doesn't work when you want it to work. It just knows.
true, true, true. That's true. So, how's it going? As in, like, how are you doing? How's the situation you're in Singapore or in Goa right now?
I am in Singapore actually, but yeah, I
Okay.
mean, the situation is very, very dismal. In fact, my parents were in Delhi. My dad tested positive on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And but he's thankfully touch wood, but he's doing fine. My COO, his mom is has tested positive in Delhi, and
Oh.
he's kind of rushing over. Yeah, so it's a very very strange and
Yeah,
difficult
it's
time that we're
strange,
going
really.
through.
Like last year when this all started around pretty
Yeah,
much the same time, a month back, in
yeah.
March, and we thought it would be a 21 days lockdown, and then it extended to a year, and now it's more than a year, and it seems like this year is going to go on like this, but
Yeah, I mean, I
strange.
think
Yeah,
Seema, we should be prepared for it to be longer than a year, actually.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like we should not spend time talking about it. Otherwise, our Insta live
yeah.
is
I
just
know
going to
we'll
get
become.
taken over by this.
Yeah,
Because, but it is really the only thing anyone can talk about, like it's so unique
true.
what we're going through. And I think that for a while, maybe it wasn't touching us personally, but with this
Hmm.
current round of the surge,
Yeah.
it has really hit home,
It's coming closer. It's coming
Yeah.
closer. So yeah, it's no
So
longer just
everyone must stay
words in the
safe and
newspaper.
mask up
True,
and use the sanitizer and only leave home, if they really have to.
true, true. So Anjali, let's get to why we are here. So to give the audience a brief, the theme for this issue is sustainability, and sustainability is a very loosely used term. Everyone is talking about sustainability. At the same time, people are not really bothered about how deep you go into the whole science of being sustainable or leading a zero waste lifestyle. Although it's a very simple concept, it takes a lot of effort to be sustainable, whether it's in your life, in your personal life, or in a larger context, which is about buildings and structures and the environment in general. Which is why I thought it was very important to have this interaction with you. Because while we did have a column with you in the magazine about green buildings, I thought it would be really nice to spark this conversation to get people to understand what green buildings are really about. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, over to you, Anjali. Like to start with, demystify green buildings for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Seema. So actually, it's really amazing that we have this platform like an Insta Live, right, where we can
Mm.
really communicate thoughts and ideas in a more informal fashion. I feel like
Mm.
green buildings and sustainability in general sort of falls into two categories right now. One is people who are just extremely jaded because it has been misused by the
Right,
industry overall. And they just say, oh, it's just a marketing gimmick, and that's why, like, I don't want to deal with it, right? And
right.
then there are also people who think that, oh, if you have to go sustainable, then, does that mean you're going to take away my AC, or does that mean that, I
Mm.
can't take a long shower, right? So I
Mm.
feel that because of these two fears, a lot of people just kind of don't even delve into the subject of
Mm.
sustainability and green buildings. There is also a lot of talk about it, like constantly people are talking about it, but it seems like there is like jargon out there, or it comes across as being really technical or something that's really difficult. And therefore, again,
Mm.
people kind of, keeps an arm's length from it. So let me
Right.
first start by saying that living a sustainable life or building a green building is nothing but following your common sense. So in terms of green building, it's actually following sound architectural principles. So if you're
Right.
actually building your building to be site specific, location specific, weather specific, then just at that very point, your building is more sustainable, than if you were just trying to import a concept from somewhere else.
Right.
In our lives, I feel like, especially in India, I feel that our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation used to live a very sustainable life, right? They
Right.
used to
Hmm.
reduce, reuse, and recycle as much as they can. I mean, I have a
Anjali, we lost you. We can't hear you. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just saying that, just a short kind of a memory that I love. I love this. I really cherish this memory. But I grew up in Delhi, and my grandmom used to live with us. So we used to sit in the veranda on the charpai and have oranges in the
Yeah.
sunshine in the afternoon after school, and the fruit vendor would come right to the house, and my grandmom would just buy fruits and vegetables for consumption of just 1 or 2 days in her sari ka
Hmm.
pallu, right?
Okay.
And
Hmm.
she would just bring it in. So there was no concept of plastic. There was no reason for a reusable bag or, any of
Right.
that. It was just so lovely. So I
Hmm.
feel that we don't have to really go far to look at examples of how to live sustainably. I think we can see it around us in our older generation. The point is that we are now trying to, we have more money as a country, and we just feel like we need to live sort of the Western life and be, consume more resources and have
Hmm.
more things. So that's kind of, taking us down the wrong path. Whereas what we can
Hmm.
easily do is sort of just go back to some of the sustainable ways in which our
Hmm.
older generation was living.
Right. True, true. So when it comes to building green, how do you start? I mean, yes, when you have a land and you set about building green, what are the things that you start with? What are the cornerstones of building green?
Right. So, I mean, basically, what is a green building, right? So let's start with that. Even that is a question
Hmm.
that we get very often because
Yeah,
people are just like, what do you even mean? You're just throwing this term around. So the point is that
exactly.
every time we build something new or every time
Hmm.
we increase human activity anywhere, we are
Hmm.
increasing the use of resources and hence we're increasing the pressure on the environment. So a green
Right.
building is where once you're building, you consciously try to reduce your impact on the environment. You try to reduce
Hmm.
your ecological footprint, which also means you try to reduce your use of resources, at that place. So how do you start?
Hmm.
The very first thing is, as I said, try to follow sound architectural principles. So build
Hmm.
something that's site specific, understand
Right.
the weather and the climate of that place, be responsive to that, right? Try to conserve your natural resources on the site. So if you have existing trees, try to keep them, do not cut them. If you have existing rock surfaces, do
Hmm.
not cut too much into them. Try to maintain the water patterns that the site had. If there was, in not like large sites and, sites in sort of the wilderness, it could have a path where, say, the animals sort of use for migration or something. So you really need to
Hmm.
understand your site and build responsibly so you're not tampering with the natural patterns that
Hmm.
existed before you as a human went there, right? So
Hmm.
that would be number one. Number two
Hmm.
is try to maximize your daylight in your architecture. Try to think
Hmm.
about cross ventilation. So try to have openings on at least two walls of a room.
Hmm.
All these things basically enable you to reduce energy use by reducing the need for lighting and also air conditioning and cooling. Think about thermal. So I guess I'm just going point by point, but third thing I would say very important is think about the thermal comfort because we live in a
Hmm.
hot and humid country. So really think about reducing that heat intake into your building envelope. So
Hmm.
you have to think about all the surfaces, but the maximum heat intake in any building is through the roof surface. So
Right.
try to reduce that heat intake from the roof and then start thinking about your west and south facing walls, right?
Right.
And so, some of these strategies are very basic. We've all studied them in architecture school. They're not
Mm.
like new science or some alternative material. It's just basic,
Mm.
architectural construction knowledge. Um, Number four would be I'm very much big into rainwater conservation.
Right.
So, whatever you can do, we all, like everywhere in India, we have rainfall and then we are constantly facing water
Mm.
shortages, right? So,
Right.
I mean, some of those things just kind of make you feel what the hell is going on, right? Like it doesn't make
Mm.
sense that in a
Yeah.
place like Cherrapunji, which has the highest rainfall in India, there is water scarcity. In a place
Yeah.
like Goa, where we have such heavy monsoon in the
Mm.
in the in the 4 months in the middle of the year, we have water shortages. Like I live in Panjim, and my landlord regularly has to get a tanker, a water
Okay.
tanker to provide
Mm.
water to us. And that's just
Mm.
ridiculous to me. So definitely rain is free, it happens everywhere, whatever's the amount, but try to,
Mm.
collect or conserve some of that water, reuse that water. And if nothing else, please put it back into the
Mm.
groundwater. So at least our groundwater is recharged. Right.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, there's so many, Seema, but,
Mm.
obviously look to reduce your energy use, buy appliances that have high energy rating. For your water use, buy, fittings with dual flushes. And then with taps, you can actually buy these aerators, which come for free, like
Yeah.
Jaguar,
Mm.
Kohler, all these brands give you these aerators for free, which reduce the amount of water that's coming out of the tap, but they mix
Mhm.
it with air. So
Huh. So the
when you're
pressure is
using
not
it,
impacted.
exactly. So when you're
Yeah.
using it, it doesn't feel like it's trickling down, but
Yeah.
you're actually able to reduce your water use by 50 to 60%.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
these are big numbers and they're simple, very simple
Simple
techniques.
solution. Yes. So one thing that you said resonated very well with me is green building is really following your common sense. And I think we have a question also here from Mansi. She asked, did the primitive form of architecture define sustainable solutions which were never spoken of? Which I think you've already mentioned. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I think again, I don't like this form of thinking because, in a way, sorry, Mansi, nothing, I'm not being negative, but I'm just trying to point out why I have a problem with it because, it's like kind of glamorizing this, the things of the past. Yes, they were
Mhm.
beautiful, but we also have to remember that whatever we build today has to be fit for modern day living, right?
Right.
So today in India, in most cities, it is very difficult to believe that people will live without an air conditioner, right?
True.
So I think to kind of really just live in this sort of this charming kind of this idea that, things of the past were great and now it isn't. I would rather, I mean, I would rather not dwell on that, but rather dwell on the fact that, yes, how can we take everything that was positive from the past, but also how
Mhm.
can we take what is positive in terms of new technologies that are available now,
Mhm.
which were not
Mhm.
available then? And how
Right.
can we combine that to provide a comfortable living environment for modern living and at the
Mhm.
same time reduce the pressure on the environment?
So true. I mean, I love the way you said that like it is about really building for the future. It's not about building for the present or like building how it was in the past, but it's really about building for the future so that the structure doesn't become obsolete after say 10 years. And also
Absolutely.
at the same time, when you think of sustainability, the first picture that comes to your mind is terracotta, exposed bricks,
Mud.
raw concrete, like that. That's the imagery that comes to your mind. People don't associate technology and sustainability, and I think they need to go hand in hand. So I'd like to know your thoughts about that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, again, like when we're building, for example, so we build mostly homes, right? We build
Mhm.
houses and we usually build like bigger houses and, whatever
Hmm.
may fall in the luxury house, home
Luxury segment,
segment.
yes.
So in that segment, I'm not even going to go to the air conditioners, but people will want big windows, right? If I'm
True.
building in a beautiful place like Goa, in fact, we're also doing a project in Chennai right now, and it's an urban apartment, like it's got 2 duplex apartments. So it's an urban building, but at the same time, what people want is access to nature, and that's why they come to us in their architecture. So everyone wants big openings, big windows, right?
Mhm.
And you will put glass in it because you
Yeah.
want that transparency, you want that indoor outdoor, right? You want to connect with nature. So
Mm.
so that's when technology steps in, because now you can
Right.
get double glazed glass, you can
Mhm.
get glass with better sort of reflectivity, right? So that you
Mm.
can actually use large chunks of glass, but reduce the heat intake from the glass. But, this constant, like when we were in architecture school, there used to be this constant debate that, oh, we should not have these glass buildings because they don't
Exactly.
work with Indian climate. They are a thing of the West and they're just being imported to India blindlessly and all that. I agree. But you will, I mean, if that's the path you want to take, that, oh, let's not do glass in our buildings, that's never going to happen. Instead, I
Mm.
would say that accept that, like that will happen. If you were building your own home, you would also want big windows. If you were, a builder building a significant building in a city in India, you will build a glass skyscraper, right? You will,
Yeah.
you can dot it with lots of green, you can do lots of strategies, but in essence, it will be a glass skyscraper. So we need
Right.
to accept that and then see what are the things we can do, because there are things we
Right.
can do.
Yeah. True. True. I think would you suggest that the younger generation in the field? Okay, then.
We can hear
Yeah,
you
you
now,
can hear
Seema.
me? Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, Sustainable building, considering you mentioned universities don't make that much of a difference. I don't think you said
Sorry.
that. Yeah.
So,
So, hello, ma'am. What would
maybe
you
somewhere
suggest the
else.
younger generation in the field should do to follow sustainable building, considering how you mentioned universities don't make that much of a difference? I think he or she is referring to the fact when you mentioned that when you're in architectural colleges, there's a lot of discussion around how you should, or rather idealistic discussion around how you shouldn't be using glass or certain. But I think you've already answered that question about being realistic in your approach to sustainability as opposed to being just idealistic and saying that, oh, I won't use this, I won't use that, because you have to be with the modern times and you have to build for the modern day. Um, but Anjali,
Seema, I
coming
just want
to,
to
yeah.
say that,
Hmm.
guys, you must go and read this article in, the current sort of edition of the A plus D that Seema's taken out. And I must congratulate you, Seema. It's your first issue and it's lovely. You've done
Thank you.
wonderfully. But, in this article that Seema asked me to write, I really did try to make it very basically I try to make it such that someone can pick it up and actually use the information
Yeah,
in it. So it's not just, a discussion on, on what green buildings are or whatever. We did try to include very kind of actionable steps. Like there's a list of
yeah.
things you can do to make your building a
Hmm.
green building. So, even if you start with that, it would be a great start.
Yeah, yeah. That brings me to my next question. Most of your buildings, I think, no, Navo Vado was recently certified. It's got a platinum rating, IGBC platinum rating. So, is it really important to for green buildings to be certified? And if it is, like, why do you go for certifications? And what is the entire process for certification?
Right. Okay. So, very, very good question, I think, and especially for this live session. So, green certification, we have a policy. So, we do two things, right? We do architectural consulting and then we do boutique development of homes in Goa. So, we have a policy that for our own home projects, we will certify all our projects. And the reason why we do that is because I feel like I don't want to just talk my talk. I want to actually be very, very hands-on, and I want to really be true to my vision and goal of being sustainable. So if I'm being
Hmm.
very true to it, then why not go for certification? Certification is nothing, but it gives you a checklist of all the things that you can do to be green. And if you are actually doing all of those things, then the only reason why you would not go for certification is because it is additional documentation. but it gives
Right.
you a list of, checks and balances, and it makes you accountable. So I can't just say, oh, we've done this, right? I need to show through numbers, through calculations that we've done it. And
Yeah.
IGBC stands for Indian Green Building Council. They have a system called the Green Home Certification, which is what we follow. And they are actually very good about their review system. They are very good about actually giving you advice. And after you submit all the documents for this, for the case of Nawada, which actually won the platinum rating, which is the highest rating in Green Home Certification, they actually did a virtual walkthrough where they actually
Right.
make you show them, and this was a virtual walkthrough because of COVID, but they actually then check each and everything that you've listed in your documentation. So you can't really, it's not that easy to kind of fake
Yeah.
it or, lie and things like that. And I honestly believe that why I want to do it. Like, it's extra effort, it's extra work on our part, but I love it. Like, I love showing with numbers and, with all the data that yes, we're sustainable.
Right. And like you spoke about the different ratings. This is a very I mean, this is a doubt that I have. What are the different ratings and why do they have different ratings? If like for me, it is like if a building is sustainable, then it is sustainable. So it should be platinum rated. Why do we have a gold or a platinum rating?
Yeah, so very good point. I mean, I think that IGBC in the green homes category, I think they have a total of 80 credits. Okay, so that
Okay.
means that they have a list of 80 points that you can do in your building to make it a sustainable or a green building. Right now,
Right.
depending on how many points you get either you're basically certified or silver or gold or platinum, right?
Right.
So the point is that there are obviously constraints, right? That your site could have certain constraints which don't allow you to do certain things, don't allow you to execute a few strategies. The location of the geographical location may be such that it doesn't allow you to do certain credits.
Right.
Cost considerations could also be there. Design considerations can also be there. So the point is that it's not realistic to say that everyone will be able to do everything. So that's why
Okay.
there is just a range in terms of
Range of.
how many can
Okay.
you achieve, how many points can you
Right.
achieve.
Understood. Understood. That brings to my next question, which is like when you're building a new project, of course, you know that okay, these are the measures to work towards a sustainable building or a green building. But do you also take up projects that are existing projects? And when you do take up existing projects, how difficult is it to make it a green building?
So, again, yes, this is a good question. This was asked. In fact, let me tell you, there's a friend of mine, a very, very good friend of mine.
Mhm.
She lives in Chennai, and she messaged me the other day, and she's like, you know what? I am in this. Basically, they're in a bungalow, but they rent the first floor, and the ground floor is where the landlady lives. And she was just like, Anjali, it's so I can do about it, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, did you get that, Seema?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it. I got it.
Yeah,
Please.
so basically it's so hot in Chennai that she said that we're sweating even in an air-conditioned room.
Mhm.
And
Right.
what can we do? Right? So she's an
Mhm.
existing building. So basically the very first thing I told her is that you need to secure your rooms that are facing south and west, and the biggest heat intake is from the roof. So I
Mhm.
basically sent her certain links of, membranes that can be put, which are reflective, add an
Right.
insulation, a layer of insulation to the roof. And then I was talking to her on the phone and I was like, look, even if, like, she was like, okay, I've sent all this to my landlady. And I was like, even if you guys can't do that, I said, just buy like lots of matkas or
Okay.
gamlas, like pots, and just invert
Yeah.
them and put them in a
Invert
grid
them
on
in.
top of
Yes.
your
Mm.
roof. And
Yeah.
just doing something as simple as that will reduce your
Right.
heat intake, will reduce your indoor temperature.
Yeah, I remember seeing this in one of the projects that we featured earlier. I think it was by the Vrindavan project, Ranjit Mukherjee. And for me, it was just a design element, when I saw those upturned like these gamlas.
Pots.
And when I actually read about it, it was such an insight that you get. That's when you realize that the science is already there. It's just about how you use it in your existing building. So I think there's
Absolutely.
someone who's
And Seema,
asking,
you see how basic it is.
yeah, exactly. That's what it's so basic, and that's what I always thought. Like it's easy. It's really easy to be sustainable or to lead a sustainable life, but the thought itself is so daunting to live without plastic or to lead a zero waste lifestyle. So I look at the waste that is generated in my home in a day. So I have a baby, and I can't think of a life without diapers. But that, and I know, and I feel guilty that I am
I know what you mean. I have a
I
baby
am
too.
contributing to the
Yeah.
landfill in such a huge manner. But that brings to my next question, Anjali. How do you deal with these things? I mean, of course, you in the larger context, you do all of those things. You build a sustainable building, but once you hand it over to the people, how do you ensure that these guys lead a sustainable life? Like,
So,
is it?
Seema, it's very
Huh,
interesting, but the clients
hmm,
that, come to us, they come to us
hmm,
because they believe in the
they
ethos
want,
of sustainability. So,
right.
thankfully, I've never really have had to convince my clients,
Hmm.
and they are already on board, and that's why they come to us. And
Yeah.
what we do is, I mean, there are certain systems that are already in place in terms of, say, rainwater harvesting, and the way the building is built.
Hmm.
All of that is already done, right? So there is
Yeah.
nothing they can really change about that. And then
Hmm.
as an ongoing practice, they possibly have to do things like composting on site, which you can do in
Yeah.
Goa because the land, you have a lot of surplus land. Right. So
Hmm.
separation of waste and then composting on site is what they would probably have to do on an ongoing basis. But otherwise, most of the things are already inbuilt into the building, you
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I think we
Anyways,
have a question here.
I do want to talk about the
Some.
diapers though, Seema.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Tell me. I mean, yeah, that is the question.
I had my second baby
Huh.
last year in January. She is now
Yeah.
about 15 or 16 months. And I also had this big dilemma of what to do. So I actually just, putting it out there that I have tried cloth diapers and they
Yeah.
work. So,
Okay.
do some research. Information is out there, and there are some very good
Yeah.
quality ones out there. So they work. And secondly, I also did research on different brands of diapers that you can buy, and I have
Hmm.
found a brand which is Danish, which
Okay.
is a lot more sustainable than the regular one. So I'm also trying to use
Right.
that. But anyways, the point is that yes, there are dilemmas, but instead of trying to be all zero, let's just try to reduce our,
To reduce
footprint.
our impact. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. That's
because
true.
just
There's.
these extreme things of, either it's this way or it's that way, I think is what really hampers our actions.
Exactly. True, true, true. Like I remember seeing a video of this guy who was leading a zero waste lifestyle, and he went to another extreme where he, right from, he refused to take a shower. He would go to the river and do a swim and come back. He reduced that. He changed the flush system. He changed the electricity. Everything. And I saw the video and I felt, oh my God, this is intimidating, really.
Yeah,
But it
of
is not. Like I
course.
said, it's one step at a time, and those
Yeah.
little steps lead to a big change. But Anjali, we are talking about independent houses. Yes, of course, they make a difference. And you're also on, if I'm not mistaken, you're also the founding advisor of Smart Cities in New York. So when it comes to India, I'd like to know your opinion. Like, yes, the houses might be sustainable, the larger homes might be sustainable, but when it comes to larger buildings or rather cities, how do you, like, what would your advice be, or how would you approach that aspect, and what would your advice be for like a small city to become sustainable?
I mean, a lot, right? So I do have a degree in city planning, and that is something that is very close to my heart. But
Yeah.
basically, again, the point is that the way our cities are growing in India is at such a rampant pace, and the sustainability efforts obviously have not kept up with it. And in fact, you know, we can argue that maybe the intent is also maybe missing in terms of, when it
Yeah.
comes to the planning authorities. But there are many wonderful things. Like, first of all, a lot of our cities, for example, let's take Delhi, right? It's not a small city, it's a huge city, right? But Delhi had the ridge, right? The Delhi Ridge, which is
Mm.
the range of hills that we have, and the river Yamuna. And there were
Okay.
always historically these catchment areas in Delhi that would catch the
Mm.
rainwater that would be coming down from the Delhi Ridge, right? And then
Right.
these catchment areas were connected to the Yamuna through the system of the stormwater drains and the nalas, right? So whenever the Yamuna would flood, then the water would surge. And then when the rains would happen, then these catchment areas would basically spread the water throughout the city, right?
Right.
And those lakes and those nalas, I mean, those stormwater drains have now become nalas, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like we have to start from scratch to really think about how to make our cities sustainable. We have to
Mm.
revive some of these things. That's number one. Um,
Mm.
every time we build, we have to think about the urban heat island effect, which means try to reduce the use of exposed concrete. So try to make your surfaces permeable so that more and more water can
Mm.
percolate back into the earth, right? Just add more green cover. So let's plant more
Mm.
trees, more green cover, so that we don't get, that much sort of sunlight and heat hitting the hard surfaces that absorb heat, and
Mm.
increase the microclimate, the temperature within the cities. There is this wonderful concept of growing urban forests. And there
Mm.
is actually this lovely organization out of Bangalore called A Forest that is a
Yeah.
leader in this, and they've actually consulted with several governments to do sample urban forests. So the point is, you don't need a
Mm.
large area to build
Mhm.
forests in a city. You can do it in
Yeah.
pockets. And these
Important.
forests, what they do is that they plant a mix of native species which grow at different heights. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so, and then it takes them about 2 or 3 years to stabilize that forest. So once that forest is
Right.
stabilized, then they don't have to water it, they don't have to fertilize it. It is self-sustaining. It basically
Okay.
gives a place for all the bird life, all the wildlife to kind of live
Right.
along with the people, and for people to
Mm-hmm.
go and, breathe the fresh air. So
Yeah.
I'm saying that again, even at an urban planning level, it's not as if the strategies are not known, do not
Mm.
exist, or are very difficult or expensive. What
Yeah.
we
True.
need is true intent, true focus, and
Mm-hmm.
just the belief that we really want to do this and we can do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Fabulous. That's a fabulous insight that we got from you. Anjali, there's one last question here. Can you suggest some books or documents, anything related to green architecture, which can be read by laymen as well? Because for a layman, when we say green architecture, it sounds like a huge term.
Okay, so don't call
Aishwarya.
it that.
Yeah.
Aishwarya, don't call it that. Call it something else, okay? But because it's not complicated and it's not that difficult. I would say the
Yeah.
very first thing is please head to the A plus D website and get this article. I think it would be a
Yeah.
wonderful starting point. I think if you go to books, they do tend to become very technical. They are usually
Mhm.
talking about bigger buildings. They're usually talking about incorporating, various sort of engineering systems and technologies that, can make buildings more and more sustainable. And I think that that
Mm.
is required for bigger buildings in dense urban environments. But I think
Okay.
that as a starting point, please don't think, complicate the issue. Let's start with, just learning about the basics, and also look at your environment, value that one tree outside your home, and
Mm.
plant more trees, like just simple things like that. I think that's where you need to start.
Okay. I think there's one more question. We'll take this question as well. What do you think a startup should be more focused on idealistic building design, idealistic market survival? Because obviously both don't go hand in hand for a startup when you want to establish.
And this is obviously a startup in architecture.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
seems like it. Yes.
So I don't think that they are, that these two things are not complementary. I don't agree with you that they don't go hand in hand. If you're building a beautiful building, if you're following your basic architectural principles, your building is going to be sustainable. So you
Okay.
don't have to go talking to your client, convincing your client. You're not trying to spend like X amount of money, get X technology. No, you're talking about looking at your site, working with your site, preserve your natural resources, look at the weather and climate, let your building respond to it, have big windows, have cross ventilation. This is all the stuff we were taught in architecture school. So none of this is new.
Okay. Great, great. Thank you so much, Anjali. And for all the audience out there, if you all have more questions, please DM us. I will send it to Anjali and get it answered for you. And
Thank you.
Anjali, thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much for being here. Um,
Thank you,
for me, it was
Seema. I
my
enjoyed
first live
it.
session with this magazine, so it was, and I enjoyed it completely. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Stay
Thank
safe.
you. You too. You too. Stay safe. Take care of your dad. Give my
Yes.
regards to Sanjit. I think his dad, his mom is positive, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, give my regards to him. Stay
Actually,
safe,
she's
all of
not
you.
positive yet. We are still,
Yeah.
they are,
Yeah. Good.
they're waiting for the test to be done, but we're
Okay. Okay. No
hoping that
worries.
everything will be okay. Yes.
Okay. Stay safe. Bye bye. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
bye. Bye,
Bye.
guys.